And you can probably see that in your screen. It's being recorded. Any of our chat will be recorded as well. But I'd like to welcome you to Tech Tuesday. Our topic today is using Microsoft Word to track changes or use the review function. So I am going to flip on over and share my screen. And let's see here. I need to pull this up. So I'm going to pull open a document from Microsoft Word, and this is a student paper that was sent in to me. What I'm going to do is show you how to track changes within this document that you can do the same. And let's see here. For some reason it's not showing you. Now it's showing you the paper. So this is the student paper. And if I were to want to go through and make changes to this paper to show the student mistakes he made, then I could save that document and send it to him with all of my notes and changes. To do this, we were going to use the review function. If you look at the top of your screen, there is a toolbar there called Review. When I click on it, it gives me multiple options. And the one I want to use is called Track Changes. When I select this, it's actually going to start tracking every change I make to the document. So I can enable that, and you see that it's highlighted now. And what I would do here is I'll show you some quick changes I can make where you can see what it's going to do your document. If I go in and add 20 to the year 2016, you'll see that over on the left-hand side, it gives me this little bar line. This is an indicator that a change has been made on this line. Any additions I make are highlighted in red, and let's say I were to make a deletion. If I were to delete this, now it deleted something that I added, so that's not shown up, but it shows I've crossed through 16, and if I typed in 2016, it shows it in this manner. So 16 was deleted, and then 2016 was added. So you see it cross through. And again, the bar over to the left shows that there's been a change made on this line. So as I go through the student paper, if I look at it, well, first thing up, I know that this student did not use justified paragraphs. And so that's a pet peeve in my class. I like a straight line on the left and a straight line on the right. So I'm going to change the format for the student. I'd go up here to the top of Word, go back to my Home tab, and I'm going to change the alignment to justified. When I do that, you'll see that the bar shows up here on the left again, showing a change has been made. But because it's a format changes are indicated off to the right with my name, and then it shows you the change that was made. So if I decided that this needed to be in, say, Arial font instead of Times New Roman, I would highlight it, change it to Arial, and then you'll see it's now shown up here. A change has been made, and what was made is a format. Now what if I just don't like that? I don't like that in Arial font. I'd like it in Times New Roman. Well, now I can go back and do the same process and change it again. Or I could come over to my Review tab with the Review ribbon, and there are buttons up here called Accept and Reject. So these are things I can do to the changes. If I highlight my format change, I can actually go say Reject it. There it disappears and it goes back to the original form. So as I'm making changes to this student paper, I know there's some changes in here that need to be made, so I'm just going to make some modifications. Delete some things. If I say it shouldn't be they, it should be he. So you can see that as these changes are made, it redlines it. So it will cross through it if I'm going to delete it. If I'm going to add it, it just shows up in red. So very easy to use. Again, I'm going to come back and justify it, and all these changes are tracked over here on the document. I'm not reading this very carefully to look for some obvious changes, which you can probably find some if you're reading it. But in this case, if I'm ready to send this corrected paper back to the student, I'll need to save it. So I don't have to save it into a new document. I can save it as the original document. When the student opens it, he will be able to see the changes I've made, just like you're seeing here. Now, what if I don't want him to see those changes? Maybe I want to send a clean document back. Well, I could stop tracking changes. So we're going to click that button again. Now we've stopped tracking it, and I can go through, and here on the accept where it has that little arrow, I can say accept all changes in this document, or I could say accept all changes and stop tracking them. Accept this particular change, move to the next, or just accept this change. So I could go one by one through the document. This is very handy if you've created a document and sent it to someone for them to make edits, ask them to track the changes. Then when it's sent back to you, you can go change by change and decide whether you want to accept or reject each of those changes. So when you're finished, you have a nice clean document. In this case, if I don't want the student to see the track changes, I could say accept all changes and save it again, and then they won't show up. If I make the changes and I want all of these changes highlighted as they are here, but it's a little messy because you can imagine if I make a bunch of changes, oops, I'm not tracking changes. If I make a bunch of changes to this document and all within one paragraph, it can get rather messy. So in order to see it in a clear manner, I can change what I'm viewing. If you look up here at the top next to the track changes button, right now I'm seeing all markup. That means I'm seeing all changes and edits that are being made. I could change it to what's called the simple markup, and you'll notice a big difference when I select this. Now the only thing we're going to see are the lines on the left-hand side of the screen. This is called the simple markup. So it's only indicating a change is made on this line, but not what the change is. If I go to the all markup, here's where we see all the formatting changes and all the edits and deletions. If I go to no markup, this is now the new document. These are all the changes have been made and accepted in this view. I could also see the original view. And so this is what it's showing me, the original document that was sent to me or per the last save. So these are very helpful as you're making a lot of edits to your document. If you want to be able to see all the markup, but you're not quite sure, was that paragraph going to go on to 2 pages, or if it's going to be on 1, you can simply come change the view to say no markup, and here's my finished product. Or if you weren't sure about how that was outlined, if say a bullet point was indented or not, you can go back to the original to see what it looked like before you started making changes. Again, if I want to show all the markup and I want to keep all these showing the edits, I'll just save the document and then it's viewable to the next person. Now, if I save the document in the no markup, so I'm looking at the finished product, the changes are still there. If I go to print this, we need to be careful that I don't also print the changes. If I save the document as is and send it to someone, they may actually pull it up and it'll look like this instead of the finished document because all the edits are still there. You want to make sure that if you're making an edit to a paper before you send it out for distribution, that you've accepted all the changes and it's a clean document before you send it out or before you PDF the document, to make sure it's the clean document you anticipate. So that's just a real quick way to track changes. And of course, under the track changes button, it allows you to modify what it is that you're tracking. If I pull this out here, see that little arrow indicating there's a dialog box available. The dialog box allows me to, if I want to hide a comment, because I can add comments here, if I would like to hide the formatting, that's a common one I use because to me the formatting is just formatting. It doesn't have to be accepted, but I can use that. I can also change my username. Instead of having a default, I can change it to what I prefer. If you want to say something like professor, or if you need to change it to someone else's name if you're reviewing it for someone else, but it allows you to do that. And so it changes what you highlight. Now you see that what I made the change here was stop showing me formatting changes. And so that's went away on the right hand side of the paper. If I come back to that dialog box, click it again, those changes didn't go away. It simply changed my view. So it is tracking all of them even if you don't see them. So this is a real simple way to do an electronic copy of a redline document. And it's nice when everybody understands how this works, but there's always that person that you ask to edit a document and they edit the document, send it back to you and say, I made a few changes, but you have no idea what changes they made. So let me show you a way to review two documents and compare so you can tell what changes someone else made to your original. We're going to use the button up at the top called Compare. Now it allows us to compare two versions of the same document and what it calls a legal black line, and it'll highlight the changes. Or we can actually combine revisions, and we'd use that if we send a document out to multiple people, they all made changes and then they sent it back to us, we could combine their changes into one document. But we're first going to do the comparison. So in this comparison, when I click on it, it's going to give me a dialog box to first go select my first document. And you can use the little folder off here to the side, just brings up the Explorer so that you can go find your original document. And I have two prepared for us today. One's called Revision 1 and one is called Revision 2. So I've selected my two documents that I want to compare. So in your case, you may have created the revision 1, sent it out to your colleague to make edits and suggestions. They saved it, sent it back to you without the red line. So they just made changes. And now you need to compare those to see what changes were made. When I hit OK, and I'm not, okay. So these are the two documents. What I'm looking at is an article, and you'll see that these red line changes, this is, the many was the word used in revision 1. Revision 2 shows that it got changed to the word 8. And you'll see that this was deleted and this was added. And so by using this type of compare, it is very, very easy to show your original document and compare it to a document where edits have been made. So as I go through this document, it doesn't look like anything else. Oh, there's a couple more changes. As I scroll the pages, I'm finding a few more. And here we go, another or two. So not that many changes, but as you can imagine, if a colleague were to make those changes and send it back saying, I made an edit, you want to know where. That is a very quick way to compare two versions of a document so that you can see exactly what changes were made. So now that we've covered those tracking changes, how to view different versions of the document, or how to view different views, the simple markup, all the changes, no markup, meaning the final product or the original, how we go through and we can accept changes. And in this case, if I start at the beginning of the document, I can go to my next one by clicking the next button. It'll highlight the change. I can say accept it, accept it. So it accepted both the deletion and then it accepted the addition. I can go through the document and do this. So I want to reject philosophy and reject business. So it kept the original. So each one of those you will have to accept or reject. So if I delete a word and add a word, that's two different, either accept or reject. I have to do something with the deletion and something with the addition. So I can make those changes, and then when I'm finished, I can just save it. Now, this is very handy when we use this compare feature and we're comparing two documents. You'll see up at the top, you'll see up at the top that this document is now called document 1. So it actually created a third document with all of the changes highlighted for me. So I could save it as a version with the changes, or once I've made my, accepting or rejecting those changes, then I can save it as a completed document. So that is how to use the review function within Word. And I'm looking at our chat over here. If you have a question, feel free to ask a question at this time. Otherwise, we're going to be wrapping up very shortly. Okay, so it doesn't look like we have any questions. I want to thank you for attending today and let you know that our next session for Tech Tuesday is going to be focused on Microsoft Outlook. In Outlook, we're going to be reviewing the options button in a new email that allows you to request read receipts or delivery receipts, how to use the reply to feature and set up a specific reply, and then also how to program and use voting buttons. So I hope you'll join us on November 29th at 2 o'clock, again, for our next Tech Tuesday. Thank you all for attending, and feel free, if you have any questions, I'm going to stick around for a few minutes, so feel free to use the chat to ask any questions. Otherwise, I thank you, and we'll see you next time.